I hated the Russian cases when I just started learning Russian. They were so frustrating. When do you use the instrumental case and not the dative? How do you learn all the millions of noun endings? And how do you actually remember this stuff while you're having a conversation in Russian? If there's anything that causes people to quit learning the language, is the Russian cases. And in this video, I'm going to share my personal 80-20 approach to the Russian cases. The 20% of effort that gives you 80% of the results. This is not every rule or exception, that's the point. But it's a mental framework I teach in my courses and use myself that covers most situations you'll encounter in everyday Russian. And as a bonus, at the end of this video, I'm going to give you, show you a reason why having the cases in the Russian language is actually a benefit and a very good thing for your Russian. Before we get started, if you only know 50 or 100 words in Russian, then it does not make a lot of sense to continue learning about the cases. Sure, watch the video, but it will be much more effective if you already know more words. A quick way to upgrade your vocabulary in Russian is by downloading my free 750 Russian English cognate sheet by clicking the link in the description. And then afterwards, after you've downloaded that sheet and checked through it, then you can come back to this video and read and learn more about the Russian cases. I also want you to understand that it's completely fine to make mistakes with the cases. Because even Russian native speakers make mistakes. So if you're a foreigner listening like we are, no one's going to judge you on it. So what are cases anyway? Cases mean that word endings change according to the function that word has in a sentence. Let's take a simple example with the word for book, which is kniga in Russian. If I say kniga интересная, the book is interesting, then it's in the nominative case. It's just the dictionary form, kniga. But if I say я читаю книгу, I read a book, then the a ending of kniga changes to u. Knigu, because something is being done to the book, is being read. Or if I say я читаю в книге, I read in the book, it changes again. So based on the function in the sentence, a word ending changes. Now Russian has 6 cases, and the order in which I'm going to be talking to you about each of them is also the order in which I recommend you learn about them. First case is the nominative case. This is easy because this is just how you see the word in the dictionary form. So if you learn the word dom, house, that's a nominative case. If you learn kniga, then it's kniga, and you use this case whenever the person or thing is doing something. So for example, dom стоит, the house is standing, kniga лежит, the book is lying. If you're asking who or what is doing something, that's your nominative case. Then the accusative case is the second case I want you to learn, and the accusative is whenever you do something or something is being done to something or someone. For example, I see the house, я вижу дом. And you use the accusative case when something is the direct object of an action, the thing being acted upon. Я вижу дом. What is being seen? The house. Exactly. Now, this case is interesting in that some words change and others don't. For example, masculine nouns that are nouns that end in a consonant, they don't change. So, я вижу дом, dom is masculine because it ends in an M, so it stays the same in the accusative case. But feminine nouns that end in a or ya, like kniga, they do change. The a sound at the ending changes to u. So, I read a book is я читаю книгу. What's being read? The book. So we take the a ending of kniga and change it to u. Knigu. Then the third case, the prepositional case, is whenever you use the prepositions v or na, in or on. There's a couple more, but these are the 2 main ones that you use like 98% of the time. So whenever you have v or na, for example, for masculine nouns, the ones ending in a consonant, if you say, I'm in the house, you say, я в доме. You just add ye to the end of the word. And for feminine nouns, it's the same thing, but you change the a or ya ending for ye. Я читаю в книге. Kniga turns into knigie. And you use this one whenever you have v or na. The fourth case, genitive case, is a more difficult case because it has more exceptions. But again, we're going to be talking about the 80-20, the Pareto principle of what you need to know about the genitive. And then once you understand all these cases this way, then you can later on always dive into plurals, into adjectives, and into lots of other stuff. So the genitive case means of. So it's basically just like in English, if you want to say, for example, the door of the house or the house's door, you say дверь дома. After the masculine noun, you just add an a, and that's it, дома. Then for feminine nouns, you change the a ending and turn it to I or ui. Now, for beginner speakers, you often don't really hear the difference between I and ui, so it doesn't really matter what you do. Just notice that sometimes there's an I and sometimes there's an ui. This depends on the spelling. Most of the time it's an ui, but for example, in Russian, the g, I, g combination turns into gi. That's why it's книги and not книгы. This is not too important right now, but for example, название книги, the title of the book. Oh, and another quick use of the genitive case I also wanted to mention is whenever you say something that something is not there. So for example, нет also requires the genitive case. If I say нет дома, it means there's no house. Or if I say нет книги, there is no book. Or literally, there's no of a book. That's the reason why it requires the genitive case. The fifth dative case is used whenever, basically in English, you use to, as in giving something or telling something to someone. Not going to somewhere, but in general, when you mean like, I give to you the book, or I will tell to you something. For this, we're going to use a couple of different words. For example, we take the word brat. Brat means brother. You can also find this in my 750 Russian English cognate list. And if I want to say, I will tell brother in Russian, you don't need to say, I will tell my brother. You can just leave my out there, as it's implied here. You can say, я скажу брату. Brat is masculine, obviously because it's a brother, and also because it ends in a consonant. And we just add u to the end. Brat, bratу. And if you say, for example, I will tell sister, you say, я скажу сестре. So the a ending changes to ye, just like it does in the prepositional case. Я скажу сестре. So sometimes there's even a little bit of overlap, especially once you start learning about the adjectives and other things, you'll see more overlap. Now, the instrumental case is being used when you do something with something or someone. In Russian, you usually use the word or preposition s for this. So for example, if you want to say, I speak with brother, you say, я говорю с братом. For masculine nouns, you just add om to the end, which is usually not pronounced very 100% like om, which is why you say братом, братом. Don't emphasize the om too much. Я говорю с братом. If you want to say, I speak with sister, you say, я говорю с сестрой, сестрой. The a ending in сестра changes to ой, сестрой. So this is how I see the 6 cases and how I categorize them in my mind. This is not extensive, this is not complete, but if you understand these 6 cases in the way I just explained, you understand most of them. Now, how do you learn these cases? Well, I recommend taking the cases one by one in the order I just explained. Nominative, accusative, prepositional, genitive, dative, instrumental. Master the basic patterns first before diving into adjectives, plurals, and exceptions. And I highly recommend 2 support activities to reinforce your understanding of the cases. First, watch Russian series or videos. When you listen to Russian like this, you hear these cases in real-world contexts. After hearing phrases like «Я сижу в машине», I'm sitting in the car, multiple times, your brain starts to automatically recognize, oh, в машине, and it will start producing these patterns without much conscious effort. Second, read simple Russian texts. When you see cases on the page, it helps cement them in your brain. So start with basic text where you understand most of the vocabulary, so you can focus on recognizing the case patterns. Now, remember I mentioned in the beginning that Russian cases are actually a benefit if you want to speak Russian well. Here's why. Russian has a flexible word order because of its case system. So in English, you need a structured approach. You typically need to say, the dog bites the girl, in that exact order. In Russian, you can mix it all around. Собака кусает девушку, or девушку кусает собака, or even девушку собака кусает. They all mean the same thing. The reason we can do this in Russian is because the case indicates the word ending. Девушку is accusative of девушка, so she is being bitten. In English, you have to start a sentence with the dog, because if you mix the words around and start with the girl bites the dog, you get a different meaning. This flexibility in Russian means you don't need to plan your entire sentence before you start speaking. You can begin with whatever word comes to mind first, and this actually helps you speak more fluently faster. Because while you're saying the first word, you can think of the second word instead of thinking of the whole sentence before you open your mouth, like in strict word order languages. Most of the difficult Russian grammar is concentrated at the A1, A2 level. And once you understand cases and verb conjugation, all you need to do is learn more words, speak with people, and immerse yourself in Russian content. That's exactly what I did. To get there, you could take a haphazard approach by watching random YouTube videos, reading various books, and using different apps. But the fastest way to master cases is to follow a structured approach that starts simple and progressively builds on each concept. Watch this video next if you want to learn how to do that.